So my name is Andrew. I'm one of the volunteer coordinators here at 1 Million Cups. Myself, along with Shirag and Devin and Mark and Lindsay and a couple other people out there help us put this thing on every week. So if you've never been to a 1 Million Cup session before, this is what we're going to do. We basically have two presenters that are going to come up here on stage and give us their 6-minute pitch. After their 6-minute pitch, we allow a 10 to 15 minute Q&A period where you can really delve into their business and really ask those burning questions like, how are you going to make money out of this thing? Okay? We are militant about that 6-minute mark, which means that as soon as we hit that 6-minute mark, we're going to start clapping. So if you've never been here before, basically 1 Million Cup sessions are the product of the Kauffman Foundation. Kauffman Foundation is based out of Kansas City. And several years ago, they went out into the community and they discovered that there wasn't really a platform for entrepreneurs to present what they're doing wrong, what they're doing. So what they decided to do was set up a session in 2012. They did one in KCMO and one in KCKC. And what they discovered is that there was a huge outcry of support for this. And what happened is over the years, these sessions started to build up. Now we have over 100 sessions nationwide, and they're all meeting on Wednesday about the same time, and they all follow a very similar format. So the big difference is Dallas is actually one of the most well-attended sessions across the United States. In fact, the funny thing, the most well-attended session is actually in North Dakota. They get over something like 150 people per session. We've talked to the people in North Dakota why that is, and they're like, well, there's nothing else here in North Dakota. So we've been doing this for a while, but what I want to do is just introduce you to our first presenter. The format is I'm going to get one presenter up here, then I'm going to make some announcements. We're going to get the second presenter up here and then send you on your way. So our first presenter today is Jeff with BlueCar. So BlueCar is a B2B ride application platform that allows customers to choose who they work with and allows drivers to earn repeat customers by building great rapport and providing exceptional service. So as is custom here at the deck, can you please stand and give Jeff a round of applause?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff, and thank you all for being here. As you all know, ride sharing has had a tremendous impact on society. Has some great reviews and some not so great, but there's a story behind it all that most people don't know, and I'd like to share that with you. You see, before you could push a button to get a ride, there were just two forms of private ground transportation. One was a merit-based system where customers could choose who they worked with, and drivers would do whatever it took to earn that business. That system led to healthy competition, which resulted in a premium customer experience. Yep. The other system was random, where even if you did like the driver, it was next to impossible to find him again. And over time, drivers figured out they couldn't really control their bottom line one way or the other, and many of them just stopped trying, resulting in this. Then in 2009, a company in California saw the tremendous difference between the two, and thought that if they could bring the guys on the left side over to the on-demand space, they'd have a service that was better than a cab, and they could use that to become really popular. And of course, they were right. But as a technology company, they didn't have drivers. So to get drivers, they reached out to existing car services all over the country, just like mine. And they told us they could get us extra business in addition to our regular clientele if we used their platform. And you know what? They did. We did see riders that we had never met before. But what we also saw is that some of them were our own clients using Uber instead of calling us directly. And as an industry made up of thousands of different companies all spread out, we didn't really have the means to make a mass withdrawal from the platform to stop the bleeding from our books of business. And it just kept going until many of us had become dependent on Uber to supplement companies that were no longer self-sufficient. And around the time our retention rates were reaching an all-time low, that's when they chose to make the shift away from the luxury brand towards the low-cost option that they're known for today, and we were devastated. They had taken control of our books of business through a value proposition we couldn't compete with as private companies. Then they shifted that business away from us, leaving our sector with just a fraction of what it once had. Within that next year, my 35-hour work week turned into over 100, while my revenue was cut in half. And with a depleted book of business, obviously I had to rebuild my company. And while I was doing that, I had no choice but to rely on Uber, which is a system where you have to leave your family behind, go park your car out in the city somewhere, where there might be business, and sit there and wait with no guarantees that there would be business. I was reduced from a high-end chauffeur with a thriving book of business to an overpriced taxi, from a proud representative of my brand to an obscure random driver for someone else's, and from practically a stay-at-home dad who could be there for everything to a missing in action dad who missed almost everything. I lost my lifestyle, my livelihood, and I'm not the only one. This is also the story of thousands of other small business owners all across the country, and many of their stories are much worse than mine. So as an entrepreneur who's a little too stubborn to give up and leave the industry, I spent a couple of years analyzing why we lost so much so fast and what it would take to actually win under these new market conditions. And I used that information to develop a strategy for a new platform designed to level the playing field for small businesses all over the country. And here it is. This is BlueCar. Now, BlueCar, first of all, is not a rideshare company. We don't control how anyone does business. What we are is the central technology hub for a joint venture that connects all of the independent operators across the country through a single platform. But unlike Uber and other platforms, this one actually supports repeat business, brand development, and long-term growth for each company separately, which means it's non-disruptive to our way of doing business. Now, to make that happen, I had to make some important changes to the way you're probably used to doing business with an app. First and foremost, I got rid of that algorithm that rideshare companies are using to control who you do business with and select your driver for you. And I replaced it with a system that lets you reach out directly to any available driver from any company within a certain radius of where you're standing. Complete customer control. You can also save your favorites to help you reconnect with them in the future, and a bunch of other really cool stuff that makes it a whole lot more fun and interesting to do business here with private companies than with the rideshare company. Now, there's a lot more to say about the customer choice model and how it leads to safer rides, to better service, and even a concierge-like experience that develops over time as drivers get to know you and your preferences. But in the interest of time, let me just skip to the end of the road here and show you where all of this is going and why. At the top of the screen are the 4 largest ride brokers in the whole black car industry. They're not limo companies, but they do pretend to be. They're actually middlemen. They make money when you go through them to get to us instead of coming to us directly. And together, they're responsible for nearly $2 billion a year being siphoned out of our industry, as you can see from my own 1099K from last year. That's real numbers. Now, the problem here is that the amount they charge for each ride is actually more than our margins for doing business, which means that after our costs and after their fees, we don't have enough left over to pay an employee a fair wage. So we're kind of stuck and we can't grow as an industry or create new jobs. So the deep underlying objective behind BlueCar here is not to put a 5th name up at the top of the screen as a new competitor, which would only make the problem worse, but it's to replace those 4 and the others with an in-house wholesale ride broker. By having our industry actually own the system that brokers our own rides, and not relying on a third-party retail broker anymore, we can actually keep most of that money within our own private companies to pay down our debts and create new jobs for our industry. And all it's going to take for us to win, despite the presence of these giants in our industry, is for us to work together. And that's exactly what BlueCar is designed to do. Everyone works for themselves, like they always have, under their own name and brand, pursuing their own business goals, but we do it together here on this platform, and BlueCar does the rest. Thank you so much.
Really great presentation, and also want to thank everybody who made it here this morning through the rain and some terrible traffic that I heard of. So thank you all for being here. I'm Chirag, and I'm going to facilitate Q&A. So we basically get about 12, 13 minutes to ask whatever you want. Like Andrew said, anything you want to know about his story, how this company got started, what the business needs are, etc. So I'm going to ask the first question, but while I do that, I want each of you in the audience to think about what questions you might have. And then I'm going to come around with the mic and just kind of see hands as I see them and hopefully get to everyone's question. So the first question, which we always ask, is what can the local startup community do for you? And what can people here do to help out BlueCar?
Well, great question. And I think I have a pretty unique ask for this kind of venue. But when I was 3 years ago, when I was younger and a much quieter and more introverted person than I am today, I had the world ripped out from under me. Partially out of necessity, partially out of indignation, I became an entrepreneur. And in those years, I developed myself as a businessman and so on within the startup world. But in all of that, there's one important detail that I forgot to develop, and that is, I didn't develop a professional network. So here I am with a business that's all ready to go, has all the pieces set in place, but no one to run it with me besides my co-founder, who is in that technology box in the bottom row. So if I could ask for one thing from this community, it would definitely be to help me to find a couple of people who are interested in running a company like this that I can pass the torch on to, so I can fill my proper role as a strategist, as an industry consultant, and as a research and development for this company. But I don't have the business background to do justice to a highly scalable company like this.
Awesome. I would say that is a pretty unique ask for this community, so that's a pretty awesome opportunity to get involved with the startup as a co-founder. So from here, I'll take questions from the audience. So any first brave souls? Oh, we got one in the back. And yeah, I'm going to float around and do my best to get everyone. And if you want to introduce yourself, say your name and what industry you're in, and then go with the question.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Toby. I'm into a lot of different industries, so I can't start naming all of them. But I'd just like to know how long BlueCar has been existing, and I'd also like to know the business structure. Is it that y'all use other people's vehicles, or y'all have your separate vehicles that y'all already have in your facilities? Also, I also have other questions, but I'll just pass the mic now. Thank you.
BlueCar is an idea that I came up with about 3 years ago, and it's past the idea phase, it's past the validation phase. This is going to work. We're going to be successful. But it's at the development phase now. We don't have the money to make a product that's suitable for this highly competitive environment. So we don't have anything on the market at this time. Now, our target audience is actually the driving community. There's about 7,000 independent companies all across the country representing close to 60,000 drivers, and that's our niche. These are the high-end professional chauffeurs, and they already have their vehicles, they already have their business insurance, everything. And we're just the platform for them to operate and continue doing business as they already have, but with just much better tools that make them competitive with what ride sharing is offering. So this is not part of the gig economy, and it's not for just anyone and everyone.
Hi. You might have answered this in the beginning. I missed the first part, but I'm assuming it's your revenue models, charging them by monthly fees, the drivers. Is that correct?
Our revenue model is actually pretty interesting. What most ride brokers do is they charge a commission. They charge about 25 to 30% of every ride, which is cost prohibitive to us. But of course, they don't care about that. So as an industry insider, my goal is to enhance our industry. And so we have a pretty interesting model where we start with by taking that 25%, but then we pay most of that back to the driving community for their involvement in growing the platform. So we're going to make probably between 6 and 12% on average from every ride, where drivers will have an opportunity to earn long-term commissions by bringing new customers to the platform, and where they will earn a residual commission on all the business that rider does anywhere in the world.
How does that compare, that percentage, with what the riders would pay, say, Uber, the drivers?
The drivers. Uber Black specifically, because that's our competitor, not UberX. We don't compete with the low-cost option. So Lyft is not our competitor. UberX is not our competitor. But Uber Black specifically, they charge about 25% for the Black car service, 28% for the SUV service. And so when we start with that amount and then pay most of it back to like 60 to 70% of it back to the drivers who have contributed to the success of the platform, that puts us at about 1/3 of what they're charging.
Hi, my name is Devin, founder of a development studio. I have feedback and a question. The feedback is that it would be great to see insight from other exclusive car transport companies to see if they've bought into your idea yet. And I guess the question is, do you have any of those currently, or do you have a plan for onboarding these other companies that are going to use your platform?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of interest. I'm from Fort Worth, and so there's quite a bit of interest where I live, and I haven't really branched out to the Dallas side. But I know in Fort Worth, there's probably about 30 to 40 drivers in Dallas, Fort Worth and Arlington rather, who have already said, you know, we need this, we absolutely want this. In fact, I believe Ian right behind you is probably one of them who's shaking his head. So, yes, the number one thing that ride brokers take away from us is the use of our own brand and the opportunity for repeat business and long-term growth. And that alone, despite the lower fees and the opportunity to earn more from each of your clients, because one of the cool things is if my client uses me through BlueCar, prearranged, I don't pay for that. And when they travel out of state to use another broker, another driver, I get a piece of that coming back to me as a kickback for bringing my client onto the platform. So my clients are worth more to me on BlueCar than they are on. And that plus repeat business, brand development, et cetera, is making this a tremendous opportunity for independent companies.
Hi, I'm Bob Legends. I get your idea, sounds great. But it seems like the barrier to entry is pretty low for one of the big four to basically eat your lunch. What are you going to do to keep them from just following you and passing you up?
I'm so glad you asked that question. And I do have an answer for that, and I apologize for the graphic nature of my example. But federal prison, 10 guys in a shower, one drops the soap, he picks it up. Does he do it again? Ever in his life? Does he ever do that again? No. He learned his lesson, right? So Uber comes to us and they say, hey, we'll get you more business in addition to your regular clientele. And this happens. We're wiped out. And so a long line of other people come behind them and say, hey, we'll get you extra business in addition to your regular clientele too. Do you think we're going to go for it? No. So most people mistakenly think that Uber is the barrier to entry, their size is the barrier to entry, the funding is, or that the IP is intellectual property, but really it's us. The driving community is the major barrier to entry that's caused everyone after Uber to fail miserably or to not get traction. And so what we're going to do about that, because our niche market is only about 60,000 drivers across the country, the top professionals. So we're not going after the gig economy, so there's not really going to be an additional market once we get a lock on this part of the industry. So anyone who does copy us will only ever be able to apply it to the gig economy, which is completely different. Does that make sense? I mean, there's a limited market that we're going after. Our job here to get traction and to make sure that we overcome this barrier to entry is to make this, is to basically give the assurance to the driving community that we're not going to pull the rug out from under them like Uber did, that we are on their team, and that we're an industry advocate.
Well, great presentation. I'm a big marketing guy. Do you have any numbers as far as cost per acquisition versus lifetime value of your customers?
I only have assumptions at this point. I know that when Uber goes after the gig economy, when they're going after, I know they have about a 3 to 6 month turnaround for their average driver who has a day job and is coming out to make part-time work, part-time income. But since we're working with the professional class, they're already actively looking for ways to grow their business and to acquire new tools to make themselves more successful. And so I would imagine as long as we stay ahead of the curve, that we will have lifetime businesses working with us, because we're geared to be a B2B company working with the driving community.
Awesome. We've got time for about one or two more. Do I have any more questions from you guys?
Since you are an industry insider, how long were you doing this before Uber came along and made your life miserable?
Well, not long actually. I was the doorman at the Omni Hotel in Fort Worth, and I got to work with drivers like Ian, who would take our guests to the airport. And that's where I was introduced to the black car industry and thought that I could do it myself. And I was in the business for probably about a year and grew my business very quickly in the local market before they came along and started to really invade this space. So there are companies that have similar complaints that I've talked to that have been in business 30 and 20 years. In fact, one guy down the road from me, very big company, had 17 vehicles working with 34 employees full time. 5 years later, he's down to 3 vehicles with himself as a driver, 2 part-time workers. So this has been absolutely devastating, and he's actually interested in this just as much as anyone, even though he used to be a larger company.
Anybody else? Okay, we got one final question over here.
Sorry, I just have a point of clarification on what you're asking as it pertains to how we can help you. So you said that you're past the developmental stage and you're ready to launch. You're not ready to launch because there's no software in place. So you're looking for someone to develop the software to.
No, we're past the ideation phase and validation. This is going to work, but we don't have it developed yet. So we have a team to develop it. We have an incredibly talented team to develop it, but we don't have the money. And quite frankly, if we did have it developed, all I could do is put it in the hands of the driving community. And I could probably get these first two not checked off the list myself if I was running the company. But it's going to take a lot more talent than I have in the business world as far as organizing the company and scaling it up to make this work. So I'm looking for a CEO. I'm looking for one or two more co-founders with a lot of business experience to come alongside or even take the helm and make this work.
But you were looking for them to invest their own money, or angel investors, or any kind of
As far
capital?
as the investment, we do have some options. I'm looking to raise money through royalties, so buying a piece of the revenue, and I'm looking at options to either make this a driver-owned platform where the drivers contribute about $500 a piece times 1,500 of them equals $750,000, or we can do a couple of big investors, or we can do this as a crowdfund. I'm just looking for ways to set that up because that's kind of also beyond my knowledge base to make that work. So anyone who can help with crowdfunding or setting that up or getting the contracts in place to make it a royalty crowdfund, that would be a tremendously helpful thing.
Awesome. Well, let's give it up one more time for BlueCar.
Thank you, Jeff. So everything we do up here happens because of sponsors. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank a few of them. If you haven't checked out High Brew over there, I recommend that you try one of their coffees. I just had the Mexican vanilla this morning. It is fantastic. Also, Kritish over here, Tasty Treats, is here every single week. If you haven't had breakfast, there's your stop right there. Also, this is 1 million cups, so we're really thankful to those companies that do provide the coffee for us. In this case, it's Fathom Software, Chirag's company. Chirag is going to come up here and just tell you for about 1 minute what his company is all about.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so Fathom Software, you guys may have heard of us. We've worked with a lot of startups in the local startup community. A lot of you guys might know the founder, Jeevan. I'm the VP of Strategy. And yeah, happy to chat afterwards if you guys have questions about product development, apps that you're working on, web apps that you're working on. Happy to meet with you guys and see if we can get on the whiteboard together and start some new projects. You can check us out on Twitter, @Fathomable is our handle. And I'll be around after to take more questions if you have them. So thank you, and enjoy the coffee.
One of the great things about sponsorship is you do get an opportunity to come up on stage and talk about what you're doing. Also, we'd like to thank the deck. This certainly wouldn't be possible if we didn't have such an awesome place in which to present this. If you're interested in taking a look at the deck, I would recommend doing a walkthrough with one of the staff. You know, I've actually worked here at the deck for about a year now as a member, and I'll tell you there's so many benefits that go along with the deck membership, but this is also just a really cool place to feel that kind of energy. Those white tables back there, those are open every single Wednesday. You don't have to be a member to actually make use of those. So if you want to stay here and work after, you can do that. What I would recommend though is that you do a tour. We've got a manual right here in the blue shirt. He can do a tour for you. And then also Rachel in the back there, she can do a tour. All right, so our next presenter today is Arun. So he works with Kritish. And Kritish aims to bring the creative community together by promoting the culture of sharing, inspiring, and physical collaboration. So Kritish is a social networking and collaborating platform. Can you guys stand up and give Arun a round of applause?
Thank you. I can't tell you how happy I am to stand here today in the company of such a creative, genius here in this room. So we are here to talk about the story about my life, the story of Kritish. We all have a story to tell, and here goes my story. Bought our first house in 2012. Like any other house owner who is the first time house owner, we were full of energy, full of creative energy, full of things to show and things to do in the house to convert the house into a beautiful home. next couple of years went into thinking about how we can do that. Every single day was spent in building that creative energy slowly within ourselves. We took up a couple of projects ourselves, started with the garden, which just has the grass in it. And I wanted to convert it into a kind of a heaven where I can go in the evening and sit and possibly meditate. And my meditation come in the form of actually just doing the gardening. I did not have to sit over there. After the gardening was over and the garden was full of flowers, the next project was, of course, let's put some furniture in the garden. We can buy it from the market, but because the creativity flow was within ourselves, I said, let's do it. Let's do it ourselves. We started building some woodwork. And once you have that kind of a passion, it does not stop. So we kept on building few woodwork for inside as well as for the outside. Gardening is over, woodwork is over, then what next? Of course, painting. See this picture? This is a pillar in my garden. But this is not it. We did a lot of wall murals like the one in the center. So we have done that, and my wife has taken a lead to do some interior decoration. We become the talk of our community, whosoever visited us, and talk of our friends. But what happened at the end of the 3.5 years, we were full with still creative energy. However, we don't have more walls to paint. I cannot take out some plants from my garden and put another one. So then I started offering my services or advices or the help to the people on my neighborhood and said, would you like to put up a garden? Let me help you with that. And people take this idea very well. And actually in that process, not only I learned more things about being creative, but at the same time I shared their creative passion. Then one fine morning, out of nowhere, the idea as well as the name, Kritish, came into the mind. And the idea was, what if we can try to build a community which has a collaboration, physical collaboration, having creativity as a medium. So then I talked to some of my friends and I asked them, what is your creative side? And the answers that I listened from them is that we used to be creative, but we are no longer creative because either number we don't have time, number two not have passion, not having energy, or not having the resources to do something like that. And then this creative struggle picture came into the mind that everybody would like to create and showcase. What happens that once you create and showcase, you of course expect some feedback or an appreciation or any remarks. And once you get that one, then you have a next idea to work on that keeps up your creative energy up and running. But at any point of a time, when this cycle breaks, your creativity stops. And once it stops, it takes many times, years to bring it back to the cycle. So hence the idea of a Kritish is to keep this cycle continuous. For me, Kritish is a social networking website, but it's more than a website or networking. It's a movement. It's a movement where I am trying to build the community together to tell them that be more creative than yesterday than today. What you have done yesterday, you can do better than that. And once you become into that creative cycle and a creative habit, it is going to help you in every single walk of your life. It is not just you are putting a garden, you are thinking creativity. You are bringing your creative thoughts process in front. So Kritish is a lot of things. In addition to the movement, I call it as a hope to the lot of people who has given up their creative side. And Kritish will give them a chance and an opportunity to bring that creativity side again and show it to the world. So Kritish has as a website offers, and it's a fully functioning site today, it offers a lot of features. So of course the sharing is the starting point where once you create, you would like to share your creations. But the most important aspect which I'm trying to promote through talking to the people in the community and talking to the friends and their neighbor and spreading the message is the idea of collaboration. Because once the people collaborate, your creativity becomes multi-fold. It's not just limited to yourself, you can create some masterpiece. So collaboration is very important. And you would ask that why collaboration? We are already having also a website which is allowing you to collaborate like Facebook and other things. And my question is that I can connect to somebody, a photographer, thousands of miles away, but I don't know the next door neighbor is another photographer. I can collaborate with him, either learn from him or do something with him. Or same way, there is a lot of work of art that we can do it together or learn from each other. So rather than going miles and miles away, let's start with 0.5 mile away. That's where the option about the discovery comes into the picture. So Kritish allows you to find out who is in your neighborhood doing what? In the what interest areas. So there are interest areas like gardening and photography and other things, and there are multiple interest areas. So Kritish allows you to do so. So as I said that today we have launched Kritish as a fully functioning social networking platform almost about 6 months ago, and I have about 1,000 plus already users into that community. Plus, there are 14,000-15,000 Facebook followers, and we do put blogs and other things about being creative. And I actually invite people to write their own blogs about what do they do in the creative fields. Simple things about creativity. About myself, I am an IT professional for 23 years and in the leadership position in many organizations. And I have a creative partner which is Maplink. This is the top 10 marketing companies in India, and their managing director Rishabh Dev is one of the top 5 growth hackers in India. So collectively, we are privileged. Thank you.
Really great presentation. Love the energy and love the themes around creativity and collaboration. I'd say that's what it's all about on the deck right here too. So again, our first question for all presenters is, what can the local startup community do for you? And I think you kind of mentioned a little bit there at the end, but yeah, if you'd like to answer that and just say, how can people here kind of help out with Kritish?
Thank you very much. So, first of all, I would love to thank you guys, 1 million cup, especially I was running late and you still accommodate me, so this is a great gesture. And thank you very much for giving me this particular platform to come and speak to you. As a community, basically, and especially this entrepreneur community here, I'm looking for guidance. I'm a first-time entrepreneur, and actually I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm just a creative person, so I have creative energy, but I do not know a lot about doing a business part of it. So ultimately, you would need to make it as not as a business, but still, as I am saying, as a movement. So I need guidance, I need support, I need some feedback, and the message to be spread to the community that let's try to be coming together like we are on this particular platform. And ultimately, for a movement like Kritish to become successful, I would require some funding. The funding typically goes into more of a marketing and a promotion and doing the road shows and doing the community events rather than a marketing for Kritish platform itself. So my intention is to bring creativity out as much as possible in the opening.
Awesome. And like I said, last time we did Q&A, same thing. So we have time for about 5 or 6 questions, and I'll kind of float around with the mic as you guys put your hands up. One question I think I wanted to start off with, though, is also, how do you guys plan to make money? I think that might be on everybody's.
Yeah, of course. So basically, that's always a question in mind, is that when you spend money, you feel like earning the money back. But my simple thought process, and as I said that I am not a business person, my simple thought process is that money will follow where the people will follow. And the people will follow where the passion will take them. So my intention is to make it as a community where people can come and showcase their creativity. Once there's a lot of people, there's a lot of community doing that, the next step is to invite those art institutes, those art supply places. And especially if you go to the countries such as in India, there are hundreds and thousands of, or actually millions of art institutes, small companies and things which do not have that kind of a visibility. Now you can make them visible by endorsing them under Kritish with a very small nominal fees, let's say $5 a year. Think about it that in a country like India, there are thousands of millions of art institutes. If you just start with $5 per year and the sign-up rate, just because we can endorse them based on their creativity, is a revenue.
So it sounds like an amazing community. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see it. Did you have any screenshots or anything?
It's a fully website.
Right.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, I don't have a screenshot in here basically, but it's a full website, and I have certain pamphlet that I can give it to you. Sorry, I did not put it in the presentation today. I will take it as a note. Thank you. But let me just add a little bit over here that when we were working on building this website, our main thing was not to scare people when they come to a creative site, because what happens is that people like to be creative, but they do not want to spend a lot of time putting their things onto the internet. So we would like to create an interface which is very easy to understand and very, very intuitive rather than scary thoughts.
Hi there. I just saw your website from the 1 Million Cups app, which is amazing, by the way. If you check in, you can also see other people who've checked in. Anyway, I clicked the nice and easy link there, and I saw all that you've already created in the video, and it's amazing. Who has done all of this stuff for you so far? Since you're looking for funding, where has all this come from?
So all of this comes from my own pocket. And I have a partner in India by the name company Maplinks. So Maplinks is a technology company, and actually the founder of Maplinks is one of my relatives, but we have a business relationship rather than a blood relation. So they are actually very high in their technological advance and the development in India, and they are also into a lot of marketing side as well as the thought process. So their leader Rishabh Dev is a very thought leader, and he is a speaker in many organizations today where he talks about the growth and the growth hacking. So Maplinks is the company which has developed this website.
Hi, just a quick suggestion. When I first tried to access your website, I typed in CRITISH. So you might want to go ahead and buy that, because I assume other people are going to do it. I'm not the only idiot. And it's for sale, by the way. So I just bought it. You can talk to me afterwards.
You are already being creative about making money from this, right?
Love the creativity and collaboration.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Any other questions? We got time for a few more, or comments, or domain names. Yeah, I'll get Devin here in the front.
Hi, great presentation. I really love the idea of getting other people to be more creative. That's fantastic. It helps everybody in the community. If you're not sure about funding, just like a possible suggestion or feedback, two easy ones are affiliate marketing and sponsorship. Especially if your focus is to bring users onto the platform, then if done eloquently, then it's not a bad route to go. And I didn't have any questions. That's my feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm mostly kind of curious about the competition, how much you've researched it, because I've looked into the art space before, and it just seems like there's a lot of websites doing similar things. So maybe you can kind of discuss how you particularly want to differentiate.
So when we look into our competition, of course, we can't even think about Facebook as a competition. There's a too big. We are using them as a platform to promote ourselves. So, but our main competitions are like, if you think about it, one of them is Nextdoor. Nextdoor is also thinking about building the community together. But if you look into what Nextdoor has started and what Nextdoor has become, it is more becoming an alert site rather than a community where people can actually come and talk about the creative part of it. And as I said, my main intention is not to make Kritish as the technical platform where people just come and influx and do a lot of work over there. But my main intention is that first of all you become creative, and once you become creative, that is through the Kritish movement that we are trying to build, you will automatically would like a place to showcase, and Kritish is a place where you can showcase your work. The difference between Kritish and other site is that it helps you to connect with the people who has similar interest. So rather than yourself getting lost or somebody else getting lost in thousands of people who are doing different things and not necessarily being creative, this site is only focusing on becoming creative. So that is my USP going to be, is that first of all it is allowing you to find out the people in your own community who's doing that, promoting collaboration, giving a lot of collaboration ideas that how different forms of art can collaborate. It's not just a photographer can collaborate with photographer, a photographer can collaborate with any form of art. So that's the idea we are generating. So the main intention here is that let's bring people back to the creative side and get their creative energies out. Some already has it, some who do not have, which has a dormant in them. Let's bring it out and use Kritish as a platform to showcase to the other people.
I just have a small piece of feedback, knowing you're obviously still in the early stages of this. When I go to your mobile site, it's making me give you my email before you really tell me what Kritish is.
Right.
And as a consumer, I'm not giving anyone my email unless I know what they're doing, what they're about. So I think if you give a little bit more information, because when you click know more, it's just going down to the quote that you've got. So I think you have a ton of great stuff in your slides. If you kind of give people a little bit more of a buy-in, that way they're a little bit more invested before they give you their email. Because I know personally as a consumer, I won't give it to you unless I feel like I'm really buying into what you're doing. So that might be helpful just in gaining traction and interest from consumers.
Yeah,
who visit your
absolutely.
website.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, we have not done any mobile app development. So whatever you are seeing on a screen, big screen is what is showing on the app. But on the big screen, if you see there is a link to know more, there is infographics, there is a video link, there is also a link to the blog. The blog actually talks about what is Kritish is all about, in what space they do that, and all that I have talked about it is under the blog which is written over there. But I definitely, this is one of our next thought process is that let's try to build an app, basic app which can give you this kind of an information and easy to use. Thank you.
I had a question I wanted to ask, and some folks might also be wondering, do you have some current current users that can share, or even from your own experience using Kritish, and share any stories of the type of collaboration that have happened through the platform?
Yes.
Like a user testimonial.
Yes, that is what we have created the blogs for. So the blog is an idea. So basically Kritish is not just about sharing your pictures. So basically sharing your creativity. You can write your own story over there, that what inspired you to do this work. So that is one area. But that is like just telling to the world. But when it comes to the collaboration, there is an option where people can connect with others and talk about each other. But at the end,
So I wanted to ask for a specific use case where someone on the platform has, got connected with someone else and now they're collaborating. If you could give an example.
Okay. So the example is examples are very simple. So I am from a north part of the India. And I know from my Kritish website that there are people who are excellent in cooking in the southern part or in a specific type of a recipe, which I tried to learn myself, but I never do that. Last weekend or few weekends ago, I just met with them through Kritish. I said that could you please help me understanding what are the ingredients, and that's where the collaboration happened. I came out happy that I learned this particular cuisine, and this person was extremely happy that somebody in 40 years of their cooking experience has asked first time, how do you do that?
And in that case, did they message with you through the platform, or did you guys actually meet and connect in person too?
Starting point is through website. So there is an option to collaborate based on what you have put in over there. Once you collaborate and once you open it up, then we encourage that just go and meet. So starting is collaboration and messaging and then physical.
Cool. Yeah, that helps me a lot too. I think because a lot of us were trying to get on the website and see what it's like to interact. So thanks for answering that. We've got time for about one more. It's about a minute and a half left. So anybody got the final question for Kritish on their mind? Okay, here, take it away.
Thanks for your presentation. I'm just curious how many users you have currently on the platform and if there's any cost to join.
There is no cost to join. So we have launched it last year, but that last year was kind of an MVP version. So we have now fully functioning website. So I have about 1,000 plus users which are using the site in the last 4 months since we have actually come up with this the proper website.
All right, thank you, Aran. Can we get a round of applause for Kritish?
Before I go, 30 seconds. So Kritish is, as it says, Kriti. Kriti is a Sanskrit word means creation, and SH is for share. So share your creation. Thank you.
Okay. So if you're interested in sponsoring, please come see me after the session. Also, thanks to Mackenzie for calling out our app. It's a really great way to learn what's coming up, and it's also a really great way to connect with presenters here in the future and in the past, okay? Otherwise, other than that, have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next week at 1 Million Cups.